What is up everybody, it's GizmoJam, and in today's video I'll be showing you how to make a Fortnite banner that looks like this. Now this is very simple, it should take about 15 minutes, and even if you have no experience, if you don't have Photoshop, you'll be able to make this. So let's get started straight away. So you just want to search for photopea on Google, because that's what we're going to be using today. It is a good Photoshop alternative, and you're able to create all sorts of things in it for completely free. So create a new project, and make sure the width is 2560, and the height is 1440. Just leave the DPI as it is and click create. So as I said, even if you have no experience, you'll be able to create this. On Google, search for YouTube banner template, and it'll be one like this, either one of these, and just copy the image and paste it into your new file. And it will look something like this. Now what we need to do is grab this tool here, called the rectangle select tool, put it right in the corner and just drag and get this middle part selected. So make sure this layer is selected. Now hit the delete key on your keyboard and it will remove it, and I'll click Ctrl D to deselect it. Now up here it says click image, click adjustments, now click hue saturation, and grab this lightness and drag it all the way down so you have just a pure black bars. So if you follow the steps correctly, you should be here. You can hide this for now because it's just a guide, because your YouTube banner will be in here. Now we want to create a background like the one in here. So you want to search for Fortnite map wallpaper, and it will show you all these images and you can choose which one you want. So for example, this will do. Make sure the resolution is at least 700 in width. So yeah, this will do. This is big enough. So just right click, copy the image, or you can save it to your computer and add it in like that. But I prefer just copying and pasting it, and hit Ctrl V to move it in. Now you want to move it by hitting this tick box here, which is transform controls. Make sure it's ticked so you have these boxes. Drag it to the middle, hit Shift, Alt, make sure they're both held down, and drag from the side to increase the size. So you want to make sure it's like this, in the middle. Click the tick, and deselect transform controls. So you should have this so far. Then on image, adjustments, and click the desaturate button. So now we have it just black and white. Image, adjustments, and levels. So this is just going to make it a little bit darker. So you're going to drag down. So when you open up levels, you'll see this. There's two kind of things you can change. You're going to drag down the white on this side just to about halfway, and then drag up the black on this to make it kind of a bit darker and contrasted. So you might want to actually increase the brightness a little bit there. Okay, and then hit OK when you're done. Now to create the background color, as you see in here, we have this gradient. So the gradient is very easy to use. You just click new layer. So where my cursor is down here, click this button down here to create a new layer, and click this tool here called the gradient tool, or hit G on your keyboard. Now what you want to do is create a gradient from red. So just click on the red. By default it will be black and white, so just click the white and change it to red. Like this. You might want to make it a bit brighter and change the blackness to almost black, but very slightly blue, because black and very, very dark blue go together quite nicely. And then what you want to do is just drag from the top or from the bottom, and you get something that looks like this. Then over here, there's a blend mode. It says normal. Click that box and change it to soft light, and it's giving you this. Let me just check that's the right blend mode. Yeah, soft light. And then click image, adjustments, hue saturation, and you can play about with the hue saturation slider. So what I recommend doing is dragging up the saturation a little bit, and maybe dragging up the lightness a little bit, but it depends on your preferences. So that's our background sorted out. Now as you can see, we have the text here, and it is in the Fortnite font. So to add the text, you want to create new layer and click the text tool, or hit T and just click in the middle. Now we haven't got our Fortnite font yet because you have to load it in. So in order to get your Fortnite font, you want to go to this website here. There'll be a link to it in the description, just fontsmarket.com, and you want to find this font here, Burbank Big Regular. Tick I'm not a robot, do the capture test, and hit this purple download button here. Don't hit any of the other downloads on the website. And once you've got that downloaded, it will start downloading down here. I've already got it, so I don't need to do that. And then head back onto photopea and type in, your name. So for example here, select that, and in font, you will be able to choose your font. But because it's not here, you click the load font button, and I'm in my fonts folder. Search for your font. So this is what I just downloaded, Burbank being regular. Oh, and hit open, and it will just ask you this. Just hit OK. So now it's saved the font for you. Just make the size as big as you can. Burbank big regular. Okay, and then hit a tick. So now that we have that, you want to tick this, transform controls, Shift Alt, and just drag to make it bigger, like this. And also, you want to make sure this text is white, just for the sake of this tutorial, because it'll be quite hard to see if it's black. And the next thing you want to do is hit Ctrl J to duplicate it. So now you have two of them, and rename that to your secondary text. So it could be Fortnite, it could be whatever. But for the sake of this tutorial, yeah, I'm just going to make it Fortnite. Tick, so you go onto the move tool, tick transform controls, hit Shift and Alt, and make it smaller like that. Perfect. And once you finish that, untick transform controls. So you have your text. Now it's time to do the layer styles. So the layer styles is basically just how it looks on this one. As you can see, it's kind of red, and this one's grey and white. So click on the name. So on the layers, just click name, right click it, and hit blending options. Then tick this little box here that says gradient overlay. And that will make it look like this at first, but that's fine because we can change that. So you see this box here where it says gradient, and then it has a black and white thing. Just click on that and make sure to change your colors. So click on the black thing, the black box, click the black box and change it to whatever color. So we're making a red banner. So just drag it to the red. And then the top, you want it to fade slightly darker. So basically click on the white box, make it the same color, but then drag it down so it's darker. So it creates a gradient like that. It fades from the dark red to the light red. So that's perfect. Now you want to tick bevel and emboss, and it makes it look like this. But don't worry, because that's not how we're going to, how it's going to be finished. Untick use global angle and set the angle to like 90. On the opacity, so it says down here, opacity, drag that to 0 because that's a black, we don't want the black. And set this to overlay and opacity 100. Drag the depth up to 1000% and just kind of play around with the size, but you want it to be just about visible. So in this case, I want it like 7. So that's good for this. Hit OK. Now you want to do the same thing with this, but instead of making it red gradient, you want to make it silver. Tick the bevel and emboss again, and it would have saved my settings, but if you're confused, just copy my settings as you see here, and the smaller the text, the smaller the sizes that you want on the gradient. So now that you've finished the text, you want to make a nice outline for it. So basically how to do that is you click one of your text layers, hold Shift and click the other one to select them both, hit Ctrl J to make a duplicate of them both, and then hit Ctrl E on your keyboard to merge them into one layer. So if you hide these, you can see this is all just one layer now. Hit Ctrl J to duplicate it again, select the bottom one, right click on it and go into blending options and click color overlay. Now you want to change the color overlay to a kind of grayish thing, but don't worry, we can change this later, just make it a dark gray. Now you want to go for filter, so make sure you're selected on the bottom layer, filter, other, minimum. And then what a minimum does, it kind of makes an outline that looks like this, and it looks really cool, I guess, and it's better than just a stroke because this kind of preserves the squareness of it. So now we have this, you can go back into blending options and you can change the color overlay to whatever color you think fits best. So yeah, this works pretty well. Now in layer style, so in the blending options for the outline, you're going to click inner glow, inner shadow, and change this to white, and change the blend mode to overlay. Untick use global angle and stick the angle at 90, opacity 100, size 0, and you just want to change the distance so it kind of gives a 3D looking effect to it. What you also might want to do is duplicate this layer, blending options, and set the color overlay just to a black, because then what you can do is move it below and it gives it a 3D look like this. So now this is what we've got. We're kind of looking closer to the final result. One more thing you might want to do is just create a drop shadow. So just tick drop shadow, and make sure the angle is 120, distance about 20, and the size also about 20. And the opacity you can put to whatever you want. So now that we have our text, you might want to add in your skin. So for example, I'm going to add in a red skin, burnout is what I used. And also if you're not aware of this website, fmbrco/icons, I'll leave a link in the description. You have all of the skins in the game, which you can use, and there's PNGs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to use burnout because it's a good example of a red skin. Select the top layer, not this layer, just the top layer here, and hit Ctrl V to paste it in. So now you move it to wherever you want. So for example, I want it here. Don't worry about the white background because we're about to sort that out. So what you're going to do is click this tool here, Object Selection, hold on it and hit Magic Wand. So now we have this tool. So up here is tolerance, make sure it's set to 33 and just click on one of the white areas here and it will select it all. Now hit delete on your keyboard and hit Ctrl D. Now you're going to go to Image, Adjustments and Levels and drag down this level here, and it kind of cuts off the whites, I guess, like this. Well, it makes the whites darker. Another thing, if you have still too much white on the edge, as you can see we have kind of a white pixel kind of going on the outside. So just click any area that's away from the skin, select, modify, expand and set that to 2 pixels and then hit delete on your keyboard. Now you might not see a difference and you might see a difference, so I think that's made a difference. So now that we have our burnout skin, we want to think about where the light is coming from. Now this part's optional because it's slightly more advanced, so you can skip this part if you wish, but you want to create a new layer, right click on it and hit clipping mask. Now select a black paintbrush, hit OK. Now hit Alt, right click and then drag left and then drag up with your right. So hold Alt and right click down and you can basically change the hardness and size of your brush. Now just drag here, just make a drag and it kind of makes it fade out at the bottom and change that to overlay. So as you can see, we now have that. And yeah, it makes it look a bit cooler, I think. Now if you want the light to be coming from this side, you want to create a new layer, right click and clipping mask, and you want to change your foreground color here to white. And then just basically do the same thing, just paint in, make your brush a bit smaller, paint in all the white from this side like this, and change the blend mode to overlay. So now you have that. And just do the same thing, create new layer, right click, clipping mask, set your color back to black, and do the same thing on the other side but with just black instead. And you want to change that to soft light. So now that we have that, you might want to move your skin over a bit so it kind of meets your name. So it kind of goes over the name a little bit. And if you want to, you can move everything across a little bit so it's more centered like that. That looks better. Now beneath your skin, so this is your skin layer here. Also, you might want to reduce the opacity of this shadow. You want to create a new layer, so click on Fortnite Copy 2 or the highest Fortnite layer. Click a new layer and get your brush tool. Now you're going to make your brush tool below the skin like this, and you're going to set the color to kind of a very bright red, so like this, and just put a dab of paint there. Now set that to overlay. Yeah, overlay or soft light, both of them work. And on a new layer, do the same thing but with white. So just paint in a white and set that to soft light this time. So now we have a bit of a glow behind the player. And if you want to make the player look like it's casting a shadow on your name, just hit drop shadow, change the angle to 0, and then you can change the distance, the opacity and the size. So if you want to, you can copy my settings. So it looks like this. It looks like it's kind of casting a shadow there. So now that we have the skin, and the great thing about photopea is that you can add PSDs. So what I suggest doing is downloading a GFX pack. I'll leave a link to one in the description. My favorite one is the Killer Pack. What's so great about photopea is that you can add PSD files. So if you have a GFX pack, like the Killer Pack for example, you can use that, and it has things like color corrections and effects, which make your banner look better. As you can see, we have some particles here, and we also have a little bit of smoke in there, but you can't really see it. So as you can see, I've just opened the Killer Pack, and it looks like this. So what you're going to want to do is grab one of your particle effects, so like this, and drag it, so make sure it's selected, and drag it up to here where it says new project, and then it will bring it onto this layer. Make sure it's dragged above everything and move it into the place where you want. So because the light will be coming from the top, tick transform controls and rotate it so it's like that, and then you also might want to make it smaller so you can see the effect a bit better as well. So now that you've got that there, click image, adjustments, hue saturation, and tick the colorize box and drag the saturation up to full. So now you have it red because it auto saturates it, and then click adjustments, brightness, contrast, drag up the contrast all the way and the brightness down a bit until you like the brightness of it. Hit Ctrl J and you can make this bigger if you want to see more particles, so it'll make the effects look a bit stronger. So there we go, there's your first effect. Now the second effect I want to add is like a smoke at the bottom. So just go onto your smoke section of the pack and just paste in a smoke. So for example, I think this is a good one. Just drag it up to the top and it will paste it in. Now make that below the particles and transform controls on and just drag it to the bottom like this. Now if you want to, you can make it bigger so you can see it across the whole bottom. So that would be perfect. And in image adjustments, you want to play it around with the brightness and contrast. So it's obviously a bit too bright now. And go image adjustments, hue saturation, colorize, and slightly drag up the saturation, but not too much. So now it gives kind of a reddish smoke at the bottom, which looks pretty cool. And while we're on effects, we need to add a black vignette at the bottom. So new layer, as always, paintbrush tool, and have like a black or very dark blue selected. So if you're doing red, very dark blue actually sometimes works with red. And make sure your brush is quite big and just paint like a line at the bottom. Set that to either overlay or soft light, whichever one you think works best. So soft light works best in this situation. New layer, and you want to select a very bright red brush. So let's just get very bright red like this. Make sure it's very big and just paint a spot of white here or light and change that to soft light. And then create another new layer and make the brush smaller and just paint another spot right here. And then change the opacity of that. So now it kind of looks like there's a light coming from the top and it makes it look better. So as you can see, we're kind of almost close to finishing the banner. There's just a couple things you might want to do. So for example, add the social media logos. So we have them open here. You can just copy and paste them in. So once it's pasted in, you can just resize it like this. And obviously you want to make it white. So you go image, adjustments, hue saturation, drag the lightness up to 100. So make it white. Make it whatever size you want. So this is a good size. And you can do the same with Instagram. Now that you've pretty much finished the banner, you might want to add some color corrections. So if you don't want to add color corrections, you're pretty much done here. Just hit File and Save. If you do want to add color corrections, just go onto your killer pack, click Killer XSCC, and drag it onto your new project. So now that you have it here, you want to make sure it's at the very, very top, and just go through all the color corrections. So to go through color corrections, you just hide and unhide the layers. So as you can see, for example, that's one of them. So you might want to use that one, change the opacity of it, and so on and so forth. So just go through all of these and choose which ones you want, and it basically does like color filters. So with that said, you're pretty much finished with the banner. You can just file, save as, and upload it to YouTube. And that was pretty much the end of today's tutorial. So if this has helped you out, make sure to leave a like, and if you have any problems or anything you need help with, leave it in the comments. You can also leave suggestions for videos there, because I will be uploading weekly. So with that said, thanks, I've been GizmoJam, and see you guys next time.